Chapter 17: Gut Instincts and Insights. I had a belief when I was younger that I was a bad judge of character. I didn't think I could trust my gut instincts, and I would be amazed at people who seemed to have this ability. It didn't make intellectual sense to me. How could someone rely on their gut to judge another person's character, and also have their assessments be fairly accurate? Several people I knew relied on their gut to make decisions about their careers, relationships, or other big life issues. Perhaps my reluctance to do this came down to not wanting to jump to conclusions about others. A very good friend of mine at university made snap judgments about others and felt very strongly about them, but I consciously tried not to do this. Or perhaps it was because I had some people whom I believed were friends and whom I later found out had lied to me or gossiped behind my back. Or, and this seems most likely, perhaps I didn't feel comfortable relying on my gut because I would overthink things constantly. Whenever there was a decision to be made, I would ask a number of people who all had different ideas, and this would often leave my mind spinning. In my 20s, I spent time in the self development community, taking in more and more information, concepts, and ideas. This encouraged my overthinking habit, and I was constantly analyzing things, especially my interactions with other people. It was no wonder that I couldn't tap into my gut instincts or my intuition. I wasn't giving myself any mental space for those thoughts to come to the surface. Over time, I did start to have a clearer head. I began to believe that my gut was something I could train or at least listen to more effectively. This came about as I learned to rely on myself to make my own decisions, without asking anyone and everyone for their opinions, and then seeing how these decisions often turned out well. One instance was when I accepted a 6 month secondment at work to move to Glasgow in Scotland. It meant staying several hundred miles from home, which I didn't want to do, but I knew it would also be an adventure. I started to see that rather than overthinking every decision, I could simply decide to make a decision, any decision. I would learn something whatever happened. Each time I did this, it seemed that my ability to tap into my gut increased and my tendency to spend too long analyzing diminished. Later on, as I was introduced to the facts of how all human beings create their experience through their thinking, I started to drop a lot of my beliefs, ideas, and concepts of life. I began to see more clearly that I couldn't make a bad decision because no outcome had the power to make me feel anything. This led to a much clearer mind and a quieter one. I find now that from this quieter mind, I can experience fresh new thoughts that are not from my intellect. I call these insights, and I know that everyone on the planet has the ability to experience them. Many of my own insights make up the content of this book. As strange as it may sound, I never really knew what an insight was before this. Even if I had known on some level, I hadn't been aware of experiencing one. I now see that an insight can come up at any moment of any day. In fact, throughout history, there are examples of people having ideas or eureka moments when they weren't engaging their intellect to try and answer a particular problem. Most of us have had good ideas when in the shower or while driving. That is, when we weren't thinking about anything in particular. I see that in the past I wasn't giving myself the best opportunity to experience insights or tap into my gut or intuition because of how busy my mind was. This busyness was in large part caused by not understanding how my mind actually works. As I started understanding this, my overthinking gradually dropped away. Now I can regularly tap into fresh new thoughts and ideas and trust my gut to make decisions. To put all this together with a little example, if I believe my neighbor has the ability to make me feel irritated, one side effect of this misunderstanding will be that I spend more time thinking about my neighbor. This overthinking takes up my headspace, and interferes with my ability to quiet down and hear messages from my intuition. But if I realize that my neighbor cannot make me feel irritated, upset, happy, or sad, then as a consequence, I will have less thinking about her and be more open to new thoughts and ideas. And perhaps some of those insights will involve creating a better relationship with my neighbor. After all, an insight is just a thought I've not had before. Over the past few years, I have made decisions regarding career, relationships, and money that may have looked like bad moves to others. But because I listened to my gut, the opposite turned out to be true. For example, when I decided to enroll in my first coach training, which cost me thousands of pounds, one of my colleagues at work was very wary and tried to talk me out of it. He thought I was signing up for something that would be a waste of money, but in fact, it laid the groundwork for my profession. When I quit my corporate job in 2014, more than a few of my colleagues couldn't understand why I would quit such a great job with its high salary and great future prospects. However, in both of these examples and many more, trusting my gut paid off for me. My intellect is a wonderful thing and it is helpful, but I now see that there is another, deeper place of intelligence within me and everyone else. Once we tap into it, we can begin to transform our lives. Have there been times when you've trusted your gut and it's paid off? Have there been times when you didn't pay any attention to your intuition and things didn't go so well? Take a few moments to pause and consider these questions. Wow, the role of gut, the role of trusting your instincts. That's a big one, isn't it? I think my biggest example of that, uh, wow, yeah, is similar to Cush's actually. In 2008, there was a job I'd always wanted. I'd always wanted to lead an organization. I don't particularly know why. I just really liked the idea of being an organizational leader. I didn't really mind that much what organization it was. I just really liked the idea of it. And so I managed to do that in 2003. I've been leading the organization for about 5 years, coming up to 6 years. And I'd started to get interested in personal development and I'd started to get interested in coaching by that point and in helping people to make the changes that they wanted to make, fundamentally to live a happier life. I could see that for many people they'd achieved a lot of success and were unhappy. And for other people, there was a sense that if they could only achieve success, then they could be happy. So there was those two sort of paradoxical situations. And I could see that both of them, in a way, were missing out on the happiness that was available immediately, like for no particular reason whatsoever. Now, I could see this. This is all before I came across the principles, the inside out understanding. It just sort of looked like that was the case to me, not from any sort of intellectual knowledge, but that's just how it seemed. It seemed that people were missing out on a better experience of life. And I thought if I could create a career, a business out of helping people do that, then that would be fun. And I realized that I thought it would be more fun than what I was doing. So I had this really well paid job, very secure. Could probably still be in it today, actually, even though it's like quite a long time ago now. Um, Traveled internationally, all sorts of like quite fun stuff. And then one day, it just suddenly occurred to me that I didn't want to be there anymore, and that certainty was so clear that it overrode any kind of intellectual worry I had about, well, how will we pay the bills and what's going to happen and will it turn out okay? It was just so obvious to me that I didn't want to be there anymore. My heart wasn't in it, and so consequently, I resigned, like literally on the spot, and then left the organization probably about a couple of months afterwards during a sort of small handover period. So that's one of the most major gut-based decisions I would say that I've ever made. So I'd be interested if you're happy to share in the comments beneath these videos, what decisions have you made that perhaps other people have looked at and gone, "You're crazy, you shouldn't be doing that," but you kind of knew it was the right thing for you. See you on the next video.